Give me appropriate action for context, OMA 125.
The chlorine-scented air hummed with laughter and clinking glasses as the sun bled orange into the horizon. But in that instant, the world narrowed to the heat of his thigh pressing against mine under the bar. I've been nursing a gin and tonic alone for hours, pretending the burn in my chest was from the liquor and not the fresh scar of my ex's goodbye text. When he appeared, like a storm cloud parting just enough to let lightning strike. His whisper sliced through the din, low and velvet rough. "You've got that look, like you're drowning on dry land. Let me pull you out." I froze, the ice in my glass shifting like my pulse. Up close, he was even more disarming, early 30s, maybe. With eyes like smoked quartz that held secrets I suddenly ached to unravel. A faint scar traced his left eyebrow, the kind earned from a reckless youth or a bar fight he'd never admit to winning. He smelled of salt and sandalwood, the ocean clinging to his skin as if it refused to let go. "I'm Jordan," he said, extending a hand that swallowed mine in a grip both firm and fleeting, like he was testing if I'd pull away. "Alex, I managed," my voice steadier than I felt. The bartender, a wiry guy named Marco with tattoos snaking up his arms, slid a fresh drink my way without asking, winking as if he'd seen this script play out 100 times. Jordan ordered a whiskey neat, his fingers drumming the counter in a rhythm that echoed the distant crash of waves beyond the resort's manicured palms. We were in Key West, Florida, the humid cradle of escape where tourists shed their skins like snakes. But I'd come here to forget, not to feel this electric pull toward a stranger who looked at me like he already knew my breaking points. He didn't waste words on small talk. "What's chasing you tonight?" Jordan asked, tilting his head so the fading light caught the stubble along his jaw. I laughed, a sharp bark that surprised us both, and spilled it all before I could stop. The 2-year relationship that crumbled under my boyfriend's sudden aversion to labels. The way he'd packed his bags after one too many straight curiosity experiments gone sour. "I'm done pretending I'm okay with half measures," I finished, staring at the amber swirl in my glass. Jordan nodded, not with pity, but recognition, the kind that comes from staring down your own ghosts. By the time the pool lights flickered on, casting rippling blue glows across our faces, we traded stories like contraband. He was a corporate lawyer from Atlanta, the kind who wore suits that cost more than my monthly rent and argued cases in glass towers overlooking the city's relentless churn. But beneath the polish, there was fracture, a family dynasty built on old money and older expectations. A father who'd once suggested tough love therapy to fix his son's phase in college. Jordan had buried it deep, channeling the rage into billable hours and anonymous hookups in hotel bars. "Until now," he said, his gaze locking mine with an intensity that made the air thicken. "You make me want to remember what it feels like to fight for something real." We slipped away from the bar as the resort's live band struck up a sultry cover of Wicked Game, the lyrics hanging like smoke. The path to my bungalow wound through hibiscus hedges heavy with night-blooming perfume. Fireflies winking like conspirators in the underbrush. My heart hammered, a mix of fear and fire, as his hand brushed mine, accidental at first, then deliberate, fingers intertwining with a quiet urgency. At my door, under the porch light's amber halo, he cupped my face, thumb tracing my lower lip. "Tell me to stop," he murmured, but his eyes dare me not to. I didn't. His kiss was a revelation, slow at first, exploratory, like mapping uncharted waters, then deepening with the hunger of men who'd starved too long. His hands roamed my back, pulling me flush against him, the hard line of his body a promise against the ache I'd carried for weeks. We tumbled inside, the door clicking shut on the world, clothes shedding like confessions in the dim glow of a bedside lamp. That night, tangled in sheets that smelled of salt air and possibility, I learned the shape of him, the freckles dusting his shoulders from boyhood summers, the way he gasped my name like a prayer when I touched him just right. For the first time in months, sleep came easy, wrapped in arms that felt like home. Morning cracked open with sunlight spearing through slatted blinds, gilding Jordan's sleeping form beside me. He stirred, smiling that crooked half-grin that crinkled his eyes, and pulled me close for a lazy kiss that tasted of coffee grounds and last night's whiskey. "Stay," I whispered, tracing the vein pulsing at his neck. He did, for breakfast on the balcony, where we devoured mango slices and talked dreams over the hum of cicadas. He wanted to open a pro bono firm for queer youth, fighting the systems that had silenced him. I confessed my stalled graphic design career, sketches of queer icons gathering dust in my laptop. By noon, we were back at the pool, his head on my shoulder as we floated, the water a buoyant cocoon shielding us from prying eyes. But paradise has teeth. That afternoon, as we lounged in the shallows, Jordan's phone buzzed incessantly from his towel. He silenced it twice, jaw tightening, before excusing himself to the edge. I watched from afar, pretending to scroll emails. But the fragments I caught, "Dad, not now, and it's just a vacation," landed like stones in my gut. When he returned, his smile was a shade too bright. Eyes shadowed. "Family drama," he shrugged, splashing me playfully. I let it slide, not wanting to shatter the fragile bubble, but doubt crept in like tide pools hiding jellyfish stings. The days blurred into a fever dream of stolen moments, sunset sails where we'd steal kisses amid the creak of rigging, midnight dips in the pool under a canopy of stars, his laughter echoing as we raced like kids. He taught me to mix a perfect daiquiri in the bungalow's tiny kitchen, his hips swaying to an imaginary beat while lime juice dripped down his wrists. I showed him my sketches, vulnerable lines of men loving fiercely against judgmental backdrops, and he traced them with fingers that trembled slightly, whispering, "This is you. This is us." In those hours, I glimpsed the man beneath the armor, tender, fierce, a soul who'd learned to compartmentalize love like case files, but was cracking open for me. Yet the whispers from his phone grew louder, shadows lengthening. One evening, after a beach bonfire where locals spun tales of shipwrecks and lost loves, we walked the shore barefoot, waves licking our ankles. Jordan stopped abruptly, sand shifting under his feet, and pulled a crumpled envelope from his pocket. "I wasn't going to show you this," he said, voice raw. It was a letter from his father, formal stationery, embossed with the family crest, demanding he return to Atlanta for a serious discussion about his future responsibilities, laced with veiled threats of disinheritance if he didn't get his priorities straight. The words blurred as I read, fury rising like bile. "They don't know about me," Jordan admitted, staring at the horizon where the sea met ink-black sky. "About us. And part of me. God, Alex, part of me is terrified they ever will." I pulled him into my arms, the letter crumpling between us, salt spray mingling with the sting in my eyes. "Then let's make them," I said, fierce as the wind whipping the palms. Your future. Our future. Not theirs. He kissed me then, desperate and deep, the ocean roaring approval. But as we stumbled back to the bungalow, hands clasped tight, I felt the first real fracture. Love like ours doesn't bloom in vacuums. It demands confrontation. The tension simmered through the next week, an undercurrent pulling at our idol. Jordan tried, God. He tried, fielding calls with clipped politeness, deleting voicemails before I could hear the judgment in his father's tone. We escaped into the island's pulse, snorkeling coral reefs where neon fish darted like fireflies, his hands squeezing mine underwater in silent vows, street festivals alive with drag queens lip-syncing anthems of defiance. Jordan's eyes shining as he watched, whispering, I want that freedom for us. At night, our lovemaking turned urgent, bodies mapping each other's fears, his sighs against my skin a litany of I choose you, but cracks widened. One humid afternoon, while I sketched by the pool, capturing the curve of his laugh in charcoal lines, Jordan vanished for an hour, returning with red-rimmed eyes and a forced grin. Just needed air, he lied, but I saw the fresh bruise on his ego. That night, over conch fritters at a harborside shack, he cracked. He's sending my brother down here. Tomorrow. To check on me. The words hung heavy, chased by the clatter of silverware. Panic flickered in his gaze, the hunted look of a man cornered by blood ties thicker than water. I reached for his hand across the scarred wooden table, tourists chattering obliviously around us. Then we face it. Together, sleep evaded us, the bungalow's fan whirring like anxious thoughts. Dawn painted the room in pinks and golds as Jordan paced. Phone clutched like a grenade. You don't have to stay for this, he said, voice breaking. It's messy. Ugly. I rose, crossing the cool tile to frame his face in my hands, thumbs brushing away a tear he hadn't let fall. Messy is real. Ugly is human. And I'm not running. Jordan. Not from you. His exhale was a sob, and we clung there, hearts sinking in the quiet, until the knock came, sharp, insistent. His brother, Ethan, stood on the porch, mid-40s, broad-shouldered in a polo stretched taut over a gym-built frame. Eyes a mirror of Jordan's, but colder. Appraising. Family meeting, he announced, stepping inside without invitation, briefcase in hand like a prop from their father's boardroom. I hovered in the bedroom doorway, half dressed in yesterday's shorts, feeling exposed as Ethan's gaze flicked over me, calculating, dismissive. Jordan squared his shoulders, voice steady. This is Alex. My partner. The word landed like a gauntlet, Ethan's brow furrowing in that patented family frown. What followed was a masterclass in passive aggression, Ethan unpacking concerns over lukewarm coffee, citing inheritance clauses and the firm's reputation, his words velvet-wrapped barbs aimed at Jordan's resolve. Dad's not asking for a cure. Jordy, just discretion. You got a legacy here. I bit my tongue until blood bloomed, then couldn't anymore. Legacy or prison? The room stilled, Ethan's fork pausing midair. Jordan's hand found mine under the table. A lifeline. Alex is right, he said, the tremor gone from his tone. I've spent years building walls for you all. But it's the first thing that feels like freedom. Ethan's face hardened, then softened in increments, surprise yielding to something like regret. You're throwing it away? For this, he gestured vaguely at me. But Jordan's laugh, bitter, liberating, cut through. No, I'm claiming it. Tell Dad whatever you need to sleep at night. But I'm done apologizing for loving who I love. The silence stretched, taut as a wire, until Ethan stood, chair scraping like a concession. You're a fool, he muttered. But there was no heat, only the ache of a brother watching a bridge burn. He left with a nod, stiff, but a nod, and the door's click echoed like emancipation. Jordan collapsed against me then, laughter bubbling into tears, our bodies folding onto the rumpled bed in a heap of limbs and relief. I did it, he whispered, as if testing the words. We did. The sun climbed higher, indifferent to our quake. But in that bungalow suspended between sea and sky, we rebuilt, word by word, touch by touch. He called his father that evening, voice unwavering over speakerphone. While I traced patterns on his thigh, I love him, Dad. And that's not changing. The line went dead after a stunned pause. But Jordan's exhale was lighter, the weight lifting like fog burn off by noon. The remaining days were a reclamation. We rented scooters, tearing down overseas highway with wind in our hair. Stopping at roadside stands for key lime pie that tasted like victory. At a hidden cove, ringed by mangroves, we swam naked under a merciless sun, bodies slick and free. His whispers, now promises of tomorrows, Atlanta visits. My sketches framed in his loft. A life woven from threads of courage. One twilight, as we swayed on a rented sailboat, he pulled a small box from his pocket. Not a ring, but a key, etched with a tiny rainbow filigree. To my place, he said, slipping the chain around my neck. If you want it. If we build it. Tears pricked my eyes, the horizon blurring as I kissed him. Salt and sunset on our lips. Yes, I breathed, the word a vow against the vastness. That summer in Key West didn't erase scars. It illuminated them, turning pain into the very ink of our story. We left the island hand in hand, not as broken men fleeing shadows, but as lovers stepping into light, knowing love's true drama isn't in the fall, but the fierce, unflinching rise. Back in the real world, the changes rippled outward. Jordan resigned from the firm 2 weeks later, channeling his fire into that pro bono dream, a clinic in Midtown Atlanta. Neon sign flickering Haven Legal above a door that swung wide for those society tried to lock out. I moved south that fall, my portfolio blooming with commissions for queer narratives, murals of intertwined hands defying storm clouds, book covers pulsing with unspoken desires. We fought, of course, over late nights and old insecurities. The way his hands sometimes tensed at family gatherings, but each clash forged us stronger. Reminders that vulnerability isn't weakness, but the mortar of enduring bonds. Thanksgiving brought Ethan back, tentative olive branch in hand, a bottle of bourbon and an apology wrapped in gruff admission. You were right. Yordi. About claiming your life. Their hug was awkward. Real by New Year's. Dad called. Voice gravelly with thaw. Bring him home. Let's talk. It wasn't absolution overnight, but progress, a crack in a monolith. Sunlight seeping through. Our first anniversary fell on a sticky June evening. Echoes of that pool bar whisper still humming in my veins. We returned to Key West. Not as strangers, but pilgrims, toasting with gin and tonics at the same weathered stools. Marco recognized us, grinning as he mixed doubles. Knew you two had legs. Jordan leaned close, breath warm against my ear, murmuring the words that had upended my world. You've got that look again, like you're drowning. I turned, heart full, and whisper back, only if you're my shore. In the end, it wasn't the whisper that changed my summer. It was the man behind it, teaching me that love, in all its raw, relentless glory, is the ultimate rebellion. Against fear, against loss, against the lie that we must dim to fit. We walked into that endless horizon, not unbroken, but beautifully mended, hands laced tight, ready for whatever tempest came. Because
Give the
in
appropriate
choosing each
action
other,
for context.
we'd
OMA
chosen life,
135.
vibrant, unapologetic, holy hours,